taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for August 22nd, 2020, Saturday edition of the show. This is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. My name is Ash. I'm here as always with Cybsidian and Moontag. Moontag's become a regular on our Saturday show. She's our newest team member working with us here, if you're not familiar with who she is. But yeah, hello, everybody. Hello, Cyb and Moontag. How are you guys doing this morning?
Pretty good.
Good.
Computer issues.
Yeah, we had some technical blips this morning. That's why we were a little bit late, but yeah, we're here now and we're ready to get started. It's gonna be, I think, a more laid back show today. A wide variety of things to talk about, but our title story, of course, is about Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, very popular series of horror games, who has once again shown himself to be an absolute Madlad. And we'll dive into what he's doing there, plus a ton of other stories to talk about today. If you're listening live, please do say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast, and don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. Yes, and if you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we appreciate your likes and follows there as well. It does take us some time to get the podcast up to the audio platforms, so if you want the latest info sooner, we encourage you to hit the link in the description to subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel. All right, where shall we start? I guess let's start with Madlad Scott Cawthon. So, the creator of the Five Nights at Freddy's horror game series has done a lot of unique things in his time. He has, first of all, basically created an entire genre of horror game. I'm not versed enough to tell you, if it's never been done before or not, but he definitely popularized, a style of horror game that was different than a lot of what came before. In that, in Five Nights at Freddy's, you're not venturing forth into the scary unknown. You're stuck in one place, and scary stuff is happening around you, and you're basically powerless to move or flee from it. And that's one thing I heard several people when they started playing the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, comment on, saying, well, this is just kind of a new type of thing. Scott Cawthon has an interesting history. He started out, before creating Five Nights at Freddy's, he created a number of games that were fairly unsuccessful. And one of the criticisms he got was that, his characters, the animations, looked like animatronics. And I find it very interesting that he took that criticism and turned it into something positive, in that he decided to make his next game all about animatronics, and it was kind of his last-ditch effort to be successful in the game development world. And of course, it became wildly popular. And he's been a master of viral marketing in terms of the mysterious messages he posts on his website. The guy can post a graphic on his website, and the internet will go crazy, like, searching it, changing the contrast, and applying all kinds of filters to it, trying to look for hidden messages, things like that, hints about what he's got coming next, that kind of thing. So, I've been following him for years. I've been a fan of the series in general. I haven't played a lot of the games. Now, Moon, you said you've played Five Nights at Freddy's, right?
Yes, I do enjoy games like this with kind of the creepy, morbid atmosphere, and it's not necessarily combative, but it's strategic. Mm-hmm. And I still haven't made it past the second night, but it is super fun, and I love watching other people play too, or just the music that comes out of it, and using the animatronics for them as well. It's pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think I enjoy watching people play them more than I enjoy playing them myself.
Sometimes.
It's a lot of fun. I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you stream that, or maybe some other horror game on Halloween or something.
Totally.
That'd be fun. So, anyway, Five Nights at Freddy's grew quite a cult following. I wouldn't even say a cult following. It became fairly mainstream, and there were a lot of fan games that were spawned off of the idea, basically. Some were like almost clones, and some like used the same character. Some were almost like parodies of the original games. It was really interesting. It started me thinking, what's the difference between a ripoff and a fan game? Is it a ripoff is actually trying to make money off it, and a fan game is just like a passion project? I don't know. Seems like there might be a blurry line there. But this leads us to what the heck Scott Cawthon is doing next, and it's quite fascinating because we're big on community projects here at the Triple S League. Anyone on our Discord server is well aware of that. We love community projects. We love community involvement in the things we're doing. Scott yesterday announced the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. The man is taking his own money and funding he's funding sequels to several Five Nights at Freddy's fan games. And he's doing this, like I said, as part of something called the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. He's putting his money toward these games. He's staying out of the development side. He's just letting the creators do their thing. But he's taking these, what some might call rip-offs of his own game, and saying, hey, I love that you guys made this. I love that you guys loved my game so much that you made your own, fan games based off it. He's funding development of these games, and also, in some cases, remakes of the original fan games. And basically, then these are all going to be released for free on he says on Game Jolt, so they're going to be released for free on Game Jolt. Madlad, what is this even? Like, I have never heard of anything like this before. Developer funding the development of fan games based on his original project. And it doesn't appear that he has any financial payoff from this. Because, like I said, the games are going to be released for free. I suppose it, does increase the public profile of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, which he would make money off of. But this is fantastic. I love that he's doing this. And I've reached out to Scott. I'm hoping we can get him on the podcast. He tends to be a very... Yeah, that would be awesome. He tends to be a very private person, so I don't know if he'd be interested in that. But I have reached out to him. Hopefully we'll hear back. Your thoughts, lady and gentlemen. And also in the chat, tell us what you think as well. But yeah, Moon, what do you think?
Well, I've seen with most free games that they generally have like advertisers, like ads in it, right? So I suspect that may come into play a bit, but like, I don't mind getting through like a little bit of that to like support these people, right? And just like, I'm so excited to see what they come up with, because like you said, I've never heard of this kind of funding before, so it's like really exciting to see where this could go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Some comments coming in from chat. Sword Sister says, this doesn't surprise me, an indie developer having heart and soul, and he definitely does seem to have heart and soul. Like the original Five Nights at Freddy's, I think the first 2 or 3 games, he created everything himself. Like, he did the modeling, the animating, the coding. Like, he just made the games on his own. I think he outsourced maybe some of the voice acting, although I think he even did the voices in the original game, like the voice of the tape guy, or the answering machine guy.
Yeah, the opening. Yeah. Oh gosh.
I think he did those voices himself. But later on, I know he definitely outsourced some of the voice acting, and then I think the VR version and maybe some of the other later games, he had help with development. But anyway, just a fascinating thing. So some of the original, just to give you an idea, the initial lineup of fan games that he's helping develop: Five Nights at Candy's 4. So there's already been 3 games in that series. The Joy of Creation Ignited Collection, Pop Goes Evergreen, One Night at Flumpty's 3, and also he's got another dev doing a remake / reimagining of the original FNaF. And he's also helping them remake some of the older fan games that used copyrighted assets, so that they're getting rid of some of the copyrighted assets and making new assets, so that they can more legitimately distribute these. Just fascinating, just absolutely fascinating.
It's a it's a really good move, and I hope my audio is.
Your audio's good,
but,
yeah.
It's a really fascinating thing to do this. It's also a really good move to do this, because when you're making a game or you're making a series and you don't have the time or the energy or the position's not right to like continue on the genre or to feed the genre, same thing, I guess. If you're not feeding it, there's a chance that it'll die. There's a chance that it'll go away because there's nothing, being made. There's nothing that's fueling that itch. There's nothing that is creating that. Yeah, I guess my audio's not good. Okay, so yeah, so the overall like feeding it and keeping it alive is, for your genre, is the most important thing to keeping it alive and to continuing to make long-term progress in sustaining it. If you're the only one who's creating a very niche type of game, and it goes away and it doesn't come back, when you try to relaunch your next thing, you're going to encounter major opposition in the form of just people are now apathetic to your story, they're apathetic to your journey, and they're not following it anymore. And so this is a really brilliant move, because what this does is it potentially makes it, gives you potentially a huge amount of self-running, self-contained progress in the world of your project or in the world of your genre. And that is actually a very, 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 very handy thing to have, because when you embrace that kind of thing and you're making it, a constant, that's when things are going to get, better. That's where things are going to get more useful. That's where your community is going to start to help your overall goal and design and continue on your project, even when you're not necessarily there, so that when you come back or you step back into it at some point, then it's then it continues to grow. We've seen a lot of like genres of like film and stuff like that be kind of like just die out for lack of interest, because nobody's really interested in it. And you can kind of track this to moments where key people that are involved in the genre and getting it rolling in the first place stepped away from it to do other projects. Then when they finally did come back, it just kind of flopped. It really didn't go anywhere. And if it's moved that far out and away from the cultural connection, then that's actually a really, really, really terrible thing. This is something we may end up seeing with Avatar. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Everybody loved the Avatar. Oh my God, Avatar! It was so amazing. It was so awesome. It was the best thing since sliced bread. It's been years and years and years since they've made that, and he's oh yeah, I'm getting back to it. At some point, he's getting back to it. At some point, he's getting back to it. Well, at some point, you run the risk of it just not being interesting to anybody anymore. The cultural phenomenon is long past. I mean, that concept has now been replaced probably with another genre that's far more interesting and far more active and far more integrated. And the best thing that they could have done was to allow and encourage lots of people with decent fan fiction to work off of that project and to continue to create and build on that world, because then you would have this continuing progress in the sense of like developing that community and developing that interest. And they did a terrible video game that they outsourced But then there were other people who were like, hey, I can do a better game than this pile of trash. And they were like, no, 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 don't touch it. Don't you dare touch it. It's we have a future prepared for this and whatever. And then, years, months turn into years and years turn into more years. And I mean, now it's like, it's nothing special. It's most likely nothing special. And the arrogance and the stupidity of the person running that is or people or corporation, when they come back to it and they realize that suddenly nothing's there anymore, that's a very bad thing. So this is actually like a very, very, very smart move on his behalf, and it's also something that will continue to grow and to help and to aid the overall outcome of this. And yeah, I think this is a pretty brilliant idea, and so kudos, because this is a good thing indeed. And if you didn't, if it wasn't followed from the get-go like this, that this would have, issues and constantly cause like progressively like more and more stagnation of your ideas. So, and he's got like a movie coming and a bunch of other stuff coming too. So it's like,
we hadn't heard anything about the Five Nights at Freddy's movies for a while, but I looked it up last night. Apparently, it is still in the works. Like, it hasn't been canceled or anything. Apparently, it's still coming. They're pretty sure they're going to be making that. So I'm looking forward to that.
If they can really pin it down and get the feeling and the aesthetics right, it could be like one of the best horror genres to reinvigorate the horror genre in general. Because I don't know how many more Freddy and Jason movies I can take, because the logical consistency of those movies is garbage. Just garbage.
Yeah.
It's just garbage. And so therefore, to me, it's not scary. The last Freddy movie I saw, I rolled my eyes so much that I rotated my chair about 4 or 5 times throughout the course of the movie. It was just like, my God, this is stupid. Because, oh, here's the logical precedent that we set before, and now we're completely abandoning that. No, here we just built up this logical precedent, and now that's gone too. And it's stuff like that where it's just like, ugh. But if they can do a good job with this, and do it well, I mean, I think there's a lot of room to grow there, because it is one of the more scarier types of things. Whenever you have somebody who's like, one of the best horror games in the last few years was like Alien Isolation, and it was like that in Freddy's too, and they had the same kind of thing. Is like you couldn't attack, you didn't have the control to like fight back, you just were running and hiding basically. Outlast managed it pretty good too, but their aesthetic I felt was kind of bleh. So.
And there's also a comment in the chat from Tara K. For those who don't know too, the Five Nights at Freddy game Ultimate Custom Night is completely free to download on Steam, and he just gave that game away at launch, and it's basically a compilation of the Five Nights.
Yeah. Is it a I know it has sort of that combo mode where it's like every character that he made for the series is coming at you. Does it actually include the previous games?
As far as I can see, yeah, it's got 50 selectable animatronic characters spanning the 7 Five Nights at Freddy game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's its own. If I recall correctly, it's like its own game, but it's got characters from across the entire franchise. Like, it doesn't have like it's not like it includes FNaF 1, 2, and 3, and 4 or anything like that. But it is a free standalone game. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong about that, somebody please let me know. All right. Yeah. Very cool. And Haunted, I agree with Cyb that it's one of the scariest horror concepts that I've encountered personally. I know when I was a kid, there was a restaurant in our area that it was based off of a cartoon show, but it had animatronics of all these characters, and they freaked me the frack out. Like, there was one sitting in the lobby that would talk. I actually, yeah, because there was one sitting in the lobby there was a character who was like in a jail cell, and he was talking about how they locked him up and threw away the key. That made me cry when I was like 4 years old. I was like, he's never getting out of that cage. Anyway, but yeah, the animatronics used to scare the crap out of me. And the idea,
I was always confused with them. I was like, why is somebody trying to make a terrible cyborg? I just don't.
Yeah. That's Cousin Johnny. We don't talk about him. Anyway, so it's it's a terrifying concept, and the idea of haunted animatronics stalking this place at night. If you're not familiar with the lore of this, go check it out or go watch videos of somebody playing these games. They're great. They are great. All right. So other news to talk about today. So Cyberpunk 2077 survived day 91. Now we talked about this. We talked about this on Wednesday. Yes, it's worth cheering. Yeah. Sorry, Robin. That comment that sounded worse than I meant it to. Like, yeah. Let's interpret that in the best possible light, and then let's just move on. Yeah. So Cyberpunk 2077 did survive day 91, and we talked about this on Wednesday, the significance of that, because it's about day 90. You kind of have to, a developer has to lock in for distribution. So by day 90, by 90 days before the release date, they're kind of locked into that release date. So that means no more delays, in theory, right? Right, Cyb? No more delays?
Yeah. No, this does confirm. 1 second.
Yeah. Both of the previous delays for Cyberpunk 2077 were announced exactly 91 days before the anticipated release date. So now that we're past that, things seem good. And it's been deathly quiet. And, of course, CDPR trolled us a little bit. They, on day 91, they were just posted on Twitter, yeah, just an ordinary day here. What's going on with you guys? So it was awesome. Very awesome. So, the November release date seems like it's locked in. Unfortunately, there's not much else to talk about. There's just not been any updates since then, but that is pretty exciting that we shouldn't be getting any more delays for Cyberpunk 2077.
I was getting myself psyched up earlier with a playlist of Cyberpunk music.
Yeah. Music is one of the awesome, like, the genre of music that's been incorporated with Cyberpunk. I absolutely love it. So.
And like, especially for me, like this is the type of music that like I started going out to the bar or going clubbing and dancing with. So like I love this music so much. It hits all the right buttons.
Nice. Okay, so we have a few updates for previous stories to talk about. Actually, let's talk about this first. So, Hitman 3 has been announced as an Epic exclusive, and this is disappointing for a lot of people. It's an Epic exclusive for a year. Really, this one really bugged me more than any previous Epic exclusive that's been announced, because this is the third game in a trilogy that is almost. You can almost consider the entire trilogy to be a single game from beginning to end, because when they released Hitman 2, they incorporated all of the content from Hitman 1 into it. They like updated the missions and brought them back in, and if you owned the first game, you got access to these to the Hitman 1 missions. And the game is just full of achievements. There are achievements for getting, certain like you can get the sniper assassin or silent assassin achievements in individual missions, but then there's another achievement for getting them in all of the Hitman 1 and Hitman 2 missions. Things like that. So like they're really integrating each game with the previous games, and so it's reasonable that they would be doing that with Hitman 3 as well. But if you own the previous two games on Steam, it's kind of up in the air how that integration is going to work if you get the new game on Epic. Now, the developers. Now, this is the first time that IO Interactive is the developer of the game, and this is the first time they're self-publishing. So this might have something to do with why they went with Epic exclusivity. It's kind of an unfortunate reality. But yeah, that we've talked before how that Epic money that they offer you for that exclusivity deal, that's very appealing for a developer. So that might have something to do with it, the fact that they're not going through a larger publisher, but that they're self-publishing this time around. But they have said that progress from Hitman 2 will carry over into the new game. Now, they said that back in June, before it was announced that it would be an Epic exclusive. Now, I don't know how long Epic exclusivity deals take to work out. So I don't know.
Usually a few months.
So okay. So if we're in August now, so back in June they were do you think they knew back at that point?
Some more than others, right?
Yeah.
Some games, Tim's like, "Oh my god, we have to get this game as an exclusive. We have to go do it now. $100 million. Throw $100 million at him." So, there's some of that, obviously. But then there's mostly, it's just like, they have a high pressure team that goes around trying to convince people that this is a great idea. Yeah, it's not a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, as far as we know, we've got these two things side by side. It is coming to Epic, but it will carry over progress from Hitman 2. That's what they promised prior. So hopefully that is still the case. And that presumably, if you own you can only own the preview. As far as I know, Hitman 2 is only available on Steam right now. So, I don't actually I should probably check into that. But as far as I know, that refers to the Steam version of the game. Super chat from Ren Stan here. Thank you so much. Says, you can't believe the videos that came out claiming falsely that the game was delayed. A lot of people talking about it like it's a reality. Are you talking about Hitman 3? Mm-hmm. Not sure which game you're referring to there. If you could maybe clear that up for us. And yeah, actually, Moon, if you could you just quickly check for me if the first two Hitman games are currently available on the Epic Store?
Sure.
Yeah. And let me know about that. So yeah, but again, with achievements being such a huge part of this game, and I know there's a lot of people who really, the Hitman games are, the way they're being made now is for a huge amount of replayability. Like, there's so much you can do in each mission. There are mission stories, like, little plot lines, different ways you can go about accomplishing your mission within each mission. And so it's really about, finding all of these things, and it's a lot of fun. And so, I've been more of a completionist in Hitman 2 than I've been in any other game. Epic...
Mm-hmm. It's like on the Epic Store, it's only the first one and the third one, but I don't see the second one on there.
Okay, they did announce that they were bringing the first one to the store. The first one's going to be free on Epic for a few days. So Hitman 2 is not on the Epic Store. Okay, good to know. That's what I thought. So presumably it'll be able to detect that if you have Hitman 2 owned on your machine, it'll carry your progress forward into Hitman 3. Even if you get the third game on Epic, that's how I'm reading this. And I hope that's still the case. I hope that's actually the case, and that they haven't changed things since making this deal with Epic. But the Epic Store so far hasn't had achievements, except for very recently. It was last month, or maybe back in June. They said they were going to start rolling out achievements for certain games. And there are some games that do have those achievements. But I don't know what point that system will be at when Hitman 3 releases in January. And even so, if you've got all the achievements for the first two games on Steam, and the third one's only available on Epic, I find this just to be a bit more of a punch in the gut than most Epic exclusive deals because of that. So, yeah, I was pretty annoyed about that. But again, it does kind of explain it, thinking about the fact that IO Interactive is self-publishing this time, and I wonder why on earth. Do you have any idea why they'd be doing that instead of going through the publisher for their previous 2 games, Sype?
Money's probably it's probably the main reason. They just
don't want to give that cut to the publisher.
Yeah, and I mean this is, it's been a long time coming because there's so many there's so much greed in the publishing sector, and there's so much danger in the tying yourself to a publisher, because more and more publishers are trying to eat their the studios that work for them. And it's resulted in, it's resulted in EA, it's resulted in Activision, it's resulted in just a lot of problems from everybody. And nobody's happy with this arrangement. Nobody's like, oh wow, I can't wait to sign up with these guys. It's like there's a handful of companies that are giving out lots of money, and they're taking care of their people pretty well. Microsoft is doing a good job of that now, but they were one of the greatest villains of this system not too long ago. So we can't forget that. We can't forget that we had Scalebound, and we had a couple other projects. We had Fable was driven into the ground because of these publishers, and because of the stupidity, and because of the publisher showing up and saying, Jim, I really want you to add this to your game, because that's what our analysts, who have been wrong 99 times in the last 100 attempts of doing this, they've been wrong pretty much every single time. But hey, I still want you to just try this, adding this cool new thing to your game. We feel that having a car derby explosion with 100 players is probably what everybody wants to play. This is a medieval RPG. Yeah, just find some way to put it in. It's like, this is gonna break the game. Yeah, just find some way of putting it in. It's either that, or we just pull your money and your funding. This is the insanity of this. This is the difficulty of this. This has also created a lot of problems in the whole realm of game development, because instead of before, in a natural business, you start making a product, and then you start, your product does well, and you start making another thing, and that starts doing well, and you slowly expand yourself. You go from a team of 5 to a team of 10 to a team of 15 to a team of 20 to a team of 30 to and you're just slowly growing yourself, project after project after project. Publishers destroy that whole system, absolutely ruin it. They throw it under the ground and stomp on it. You make a good game, publisher shows up and says, hey, we've got $100 million for you. And instead of slowly expanding in a scope that you can deal with, you go from having 5 employees to having 500 employees. Well, you don't even know the name of the people that work there anymore, let alone what their individual strengths and weaknesses are. And so there's been a lot of this shortcutting, which results in these game companies coming in, buying out these massive things, and then the projects are either too big and are too encompassing, or things just start falling apart. And some studios have done it well. Some studios, from when they made their last big AAA game, have less than 30% more people at their studio than they did then. It's that's an appropriate growing studio. That's an appropriately grown studio. Now, some studios, they do a much bigger job of this. CDPR has been doing a much better deal with this, and they've been handling this a lot better, but they've been self-regulating themselves, and they've actually been able to manage that growth quite well. They haven't been bought out by a publisher who just throws truckloads of money at them and tells them, basically runs their cycle, their development cycle for all of the games. And this is why this is a big important thing. That more and more studios are dumping their publishers to self-publish. It's that's a good thing, because you're now controlling it yourself, and you're now controlling that yourself. And we've talked about the whole Epic, the thing that Epic throws in here. Really, what's happening with this, and I've got to say it from having looked at a whole bunch of their games the other day. I kind of did kind of a bit of a review. Pretty much all of those games just did what would normally have been a paid, opt-in paid beta. They've just done that there, and then when they release on Steam, you're actually getting their full game. And
really,
so
that's interesting.
Yeah, but and then I kind of called this before. It's like some studios are doing that, but they're still netting a lot of negativity. They're still netting a lot of negativity. There's still studios and still games that have now kind of come out, and it's it's not doing well. They're not tracking any more people. There was one developer who was a real POS about it. He was so convinced that this was the best thing to do, and that all of the negative press would blow over. It's not. It hasn't. His game is still being played by less than 500 people a week. In some cases, less than 5. So no, you took your entire studio and you took your entire studio, the genre for your game, and all of your hopes and dreams. You basically sold it out to the highest bidder. So Tim still has a lot of freaking problems to answer with that. Like, the amount of damage that he's done to some of these studios are incalculable now, because he just wasn't willing to say, hey, release on ours and Steam, and then give the players the choice, and let them know that when they're buying it on Steam, on the Epic Store, that they're sending an extra $5 to you. And that's where you prefer it. Do that. Let the market decide. No. Don't let the market decide. Let Tim decide. That's been how that's going. So I'm still very much angry at Tim for this, and there's still a lot of developers who've really kind of screwed this up. So.
Rensten says, don't forget that public pressure or publisher pressure comes from those who own their stocks, like Chase Bank owning some of Capcom. And Rensten also clarifies he was talking about Cyberpunk 2077 before with the delay comment. Yes, that is. I just did a quick search, and yeah, I haven't seen anybody claiming that it's been delayed again. I mean, they might be out there. I just didn't see any, but I have seen a few videos saying, oh, it's probably going to be delayed again, or another possible delay, based on a comment from one of the devs that they're not entirely happy with the melee combat, and that they're still working to improve it. And a few content creators have jumped on that, completely speculating that means the game's going to be delayed again, which is nonsense.
Yeah, no, they're past the mark now.
They are past the mark now. So if you see any videos or articles, anything saying that the game is delayed again or might be delayed again, definitely take that with a grain of salt, and don't believe that unless it directly comes from CD Projekt. Don't buy into that kind of hype. That's clickbait to the max, saying another delay. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You want to talk about how they said they weren't entirely happy with the melee combat? I mean, it's one aspect of a massive, massive game, and yes, they said they're working to improve it, but they've still got... It's still over 3 months. No, it's under 3 months now. But they've still got, 2 months plus a bit to improve that aspect of it. That's what they were talking about. They're still working on it. And they've heard the feedback that it didn't look great, so they're trying to make it better. Anyway, Rensten, thank you so much for those super chats. Really appreciate that. And back to the Hitman topic. Time Bean was saying earlier, who was it was saying? Time Bean was saying it really seems for an established franchise like this, it really does seem like a slap in the face to the fans of the series to not give them that choice, especially if they own the previous 2 games on a different platform and they want to have them all in the same place. I completely agree, but especially when you consider the fact that it is such an integrated product, and you look at the way they integrated Hitman 1 content into Hitman 2, and again, it seems like that's what they're going to be going for again. I completely agree, so I feel like this was kind of a slap in the face. I don't want to play Game 3 on Epic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll just boil down to basically time. Like,
well, yeah. So it is a
come
time.
out-
It's a timed exclusive.
Yeah,
It will come to Steam in a year.
And like I said, I suspect strongly that their original release date was next year. And then when Epic like approached them and said, "Hey, do this, come over here," basically they're like, "Okay, all right, well, we're just gonna soft launch on here then, and then we'll do our full launch under that." It's kind of like the Fallout Shelter. So Fallout Shelter came out to iPhone first, made a lot of money there. They did a lot of bug fixing, really polished out some of the features, did some stuff. Then when they brought it to the Android market, it crushed the numbers that they had gotten from Apple. Absolutely crushed those numbers. And it's because you just don't have the same market. You just don't have the same market, and it's foolish to think that they're the same. And it's why the bigger your market, the bigger your influence, the bigger your interaction with your market and the player base, and the larger those numbers are, the more money you're going to make, period. Because if you're selling a product to 100 million people versus 1 million people, you're always going to be making, well, in most cases, you're always going to be making more money with selling to 1 million people.
So. Yeah. So does that? We've discussed this before. Is that stipend that Epic's paying you, is that worth the potential lost revenue and bad press of doing it this way? Yeah, can they really cover? I can definitely see the appeal for a small indie dev, and I mean this is ultimately the reason they would do it, is because of the money. Like what else would it be? Mm-hmm. I know, like Time Being and others in the chat have been saying, why would they do this? Well, money.
Yeah, money. In some cases, it is a guaranteed wage, and for some companies working on games that are somewhat niche, the chances of your game becoming a number one seller is pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you know that you can, pay the bills for the next 2 years and slowly expand your team, and then just rebrand because nobody's going to want to support you anyways after that, then that's actually a tempting offer. And it's shocking to me that Tim hasn't addressed this yet. He hasn't addressed the fact that there's a lot of developers out there who are like, all right, well, I guess, yeah, signing up with Steam will guarantee my wages for the next couple of years and will allow me to expand properly, and that after we're done that, we're just going to have to reset. Like, we're just going to have to take the game and our company and completely reset. Like, how does he not realize that this has been a massive problem? Like, how does he not realize this? That there are studios that are like, oh yeah, we signed a deal with Epic, and now we have to rebrand completely because nobody wants anything to do with our company. But that's they're baking that cost into the money that they're taking from them. It's like, Tim, hello, your thing is not working. You're not helping developers. You're just hurting them.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, that would be. Tim Sweeney is. He talks like he's fighting the good fight on behalf of gamers and developers, but really, a lot of hypocrisy there. A lot of questionable stances, and we'll talk a little. I mean, there's something else going on with Epic right now that we'll get to in a moment, but in the meantime, you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about, stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League, and there's a lot of people there to game with, to do community activities with. There's some tabletop games going on. There's some regular Quiplash games going on. Other games are being streamed and played together. Sea of Thieves, that kind of thing. Lots going on in the server these days. It's really great to see. So click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. All right, so the other thing that's going on with Epic is, of course, their ongoing battle with Apple, and we're not going to dive too heavily into this because at this point it's
too much,
there's a lot going on. It's a little heavy. They're basically just arguing back and forth. I mean, if you're not familiar with what originally happened, Epic, who developed and owns the very popular battle royale game Fortnite, which is available on mobile devices, they implemented their own payment system into the Fortnite app on mobile devices, which bypasses, Apple and Google getting their cut of any in-app purchases. And this, of course, violates the terms of services of these stores. So Apple yanked them from the store. Google did as well, but that's not getting nearly as much press. But Apple and Epic have both been going back and forth, kind of slamming each other. Apple saying that Epic Games was asking for special treatment. Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic, saying that that's a lie, etc., etc. And Epic knew, what's interesting to note about this is that Epic deliberately baited this. They had a lawsuit ready to go.
Yeah, they put it up almost hours.
It was
later
almost instant. Plus, they had an ad campaign ready to go that attacked Apple. So the kind of thing which
was actually really funny. The whole video thingy was kind of interesting. I do find this kind of funny when they continue to sell microtransactions. They're as well as loot boxes, but the loot boxes are done a slightly different way that don't make them quote unquote as predatory on paper, but it actually still ends up being the same thing. You can see what you get on the next flip. So in that sense, when you're about to get the item that you want, but you still can't re-flip that card without a purchase. So people are just, now all it does is oh, okay, well, this buy is going to be terrible, but it's the next one. The next buy, that one, that's going to have the item, that's going to have that yellow, super rare, awesome thing that I really, really want. That's going to have that one. Mm-hmm. And it's
yeah, well,
it's still a predatory system.
Yeah, they just pushed it back one step.
Yeah, they just pushed it back one step, and the whole system needs to go. The whole system needs to go. You can sell I'm okay with them selling the monthly or the weekly. I think it's the seasonal pack things, and then cosmetics for you want this purple hat? It's $2. $2 you get the purple hat. And then that's it. And that's the system. I'm in favor of that system, but no shortcuts, no oh, you still have 10 levels to go on your seasonal bonus thingy here, and if you don't get it in time, then you're not going to get these rewards. They're gone forever. But hey, you can spend $40 and you can advance 20 levels on your thing. So, and that'll get you what you want. It's ooh, that's still so slimy. It's still so slimy. It's not okay. And the fact that they continue to do so over and over and over and over again is very disturbing. Again.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Yeah, anyway. Our friend Michael, Legacy Killer HD on Twitter, he's got a YouTube channel as well, I think summed it up really well, saying the Epic Games versus Apple war boils down to a multi-billion-dollar company fighting a trillion-dollar company, with the multi-billion-dollar company lying about their intentions, which, surprise, is about them using gamers and clever marketing to help them fight to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did say on the last podcast that I was kind of leaning Team Epic because I like to see someone taking the screws to Apple, because these mega corporations do seriously concern me. But I'm definitely not a fan of Epic either.
I'm a fan of Epic and its engine. The engine and the team that is developing the engine, they have nothing to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
And they make a really good product, and they're really good people there. And I do applaud Tim for at least not screwing with that system, not making some of the choices that many other people, many other companies are making right now about, ooh, well, you're the game that you're making is problematic, so we're just gonna yeah, we're just gonna have some issues here with that. And yeah, this is not acceptable. This is really not acceptable.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I agree about the engine development side. The Unreal Engine is
yeah, and
is
the
really
fact
good.
that they're quite vocal about, like, look, we're only gonna, like, anybody can make a game on our thing, doesn't matter what you're making. It's like I applaud that, because that's like they're taking the politics out, and it's like, okay, good job. Because it's a very good job. I'm 100% behind this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I think that's all that there is to say about that. I mean, you can dig into the back and forth if you are curious about it. A lot of it is publicly available, but it's too much to get into here, and I doubt any of you would be terribly interested in that anyway. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, because the outcome, I mean, if Epic does win that one, that could definitely change the face of mobile gaming.
Yeah, it's definitely going to alter everything.
Did I say Epic or Apple? If Epic wins, it'll definitely change the face of mobile gaming. If Apple wins, it'll probably just be same old, same old.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe things should change. But I mean, there's kind of, I mean...
Oh, things should definitely change, and more pressure needs to be brought to bear on some of these truly horrendous decisions that people are making.
Well, I agree. But at the same time, like, you can't have a system where you make a platform that people put apps on, and you get no compensation for that. Like, that wouldn't be a sustainable system. But is the 30% cut, is that maybe unreasonable?
Mm-hmm.
These are questions I don't have the answers to. I don't have the expertise needed. But it'll be interesting to see how that all falls out. Anyway, some other things involving social media and big corporations. So a few days ago, Oculus, the makers of the Oculus VR devices, have said that now if you want to use their VR devices, you have to have a Facebook account, and you have to link it to your Facebook account. If you have an existing Oculus account, that'll last for another 2 years, and you'll have the option to merge your Oculus and Facebook accounts. But anyone making a new account or getting a new Oculus device, you'll have to link it to your Facebook account. And then in a couple of years, they're going to change it so you must have a Facebook account. Now, Oculus is owned by Facebook, so there is that connection. It's not like a random thing. They're just like, oh, well, we're going to make you have a Facebook account. But this does seem kind of shady. Like, basically forcing people who use your device to now be on Facebook. And once you're on Facebook, they've got you and a whole bunch of your info.
I hate to spoil your morning, but you are all on Facebook. Everybody is on Facebook, whether you have an account there or not. You exist on Facebook, and Facebook knows more about you and your daily life. They know your likelihood of like everything. There was a article out lately that was like, it's like, just with these big apps and these big companies, they know when you go to the bathroom and when you'll need to go to the bathroom more likely than you do. So, yeah, fun stuff.
That is true. That is true.
But no, they have these, like, basically they're like these like shadow accounts where it's like you have JoJo in your phone, and Joey Bag of Donuts has JoJo in his phone, and you've tagged JoJo in a picture once or twice at a bar, and then everybody else has, and then the next thing you know, he's out on this bizarre adventure, and everything's going crazy, and yeah, you turn around and suddenly, boom, they've got all your data, everything.
Well,
everything. They know everything about you.
Well, exactly, and they
About
have that.
JoJo.
They have that thing. If you install Facebook on your phone, what's the first thing they say? Oh, let us look at your contacts so that we can help you find your Facebook friends. Boom. You agree to that. You've just given them all your friends' names and phone numbers, plus possibly more info. But they definitely. But if someone else who has you as a contact in their phone has done that, then Facebook has your info, even if you don't have a Facebook account. It's crazy. So I guess, I mean, you're right. I suppose it's just a small step up from what they already do, but a lot of people are not happy about this. Robin Green says in the chat, Triple S League, my brother, who is big into his VR, said they could map your body movements with this Facebook connection and use it to track you on city CCTV systems.
It's one of many ways that they're doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all, and I'd like to think that they wouldn't. I mean, let's be honest. Of course, somebody's gonna be able to use that data somehow. Like, I don't know how. I don't think Facebook is connected to like city security surveillance systems necessarily, but
they sell some of the they buy and sell some of that data. So,
well, that's just
like
it.
Mostly
they're not
right now. It's mostly it's facial recognition, and then they have contracts with these companies to get that working. So, yeah, it's a far more dystopian future than I think most people think. But it's so far there's very little like actual like maniacal evil genius behind it. It's mostly just based off of greed and trying to grow companies.
They just want to make money off you. But the fact that, like, if that data is available, just the fact that there's the potential for it to be misused a lot more, and there's typically laws against that type of misuse, but laws can change and governments don't always follow their own laws, so there you go. Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie, it is slightly disturbing. Not to put a downer on your mornings, like Saib said, but it's definitely we need to be aware of this stuff and realize this stuff is happening.
Yeah, the whole mindset of rules for thee, but not for me. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the that's one of the most disturbing things that I see in corporate and like especially corporate and politics. It's like it's so terrible.
All right. Some updates on some games that we've talked about recently, and there's been a lot of chatter already this morning in our live chat about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Quick update on that. So Hardsuit Labs, the developer of the game, very suddenly axed both their lead writer Brian Mitsoda and their creative director Kai Clooney, who were working on the project. And we were speculating on Wednesday about why they would have done that. We had an in-depth discussion about that on Wednesday. If you're curious, you can go back and listen. According to Dale Emassiri, who works at Paradox, lead comm dev at Paradox Interactive, and I'm not sure what comm dev actually stands for in this context. Component developer or something? Anyway, Dale Emassiri posted on Discord that the decision was not because of money, it was a decision about creative differences. Now, on Wednesday, Saib, you said you were hoping it was a money issue, but it turns out...
I was hoping it was a money issue, but if this is true, then it's a personality and conflict issue, which means that we're gonna have some issues when it comes to like the core concept of like what the game is, or possibly just the story, or possibly a handful of other things. It may not affect the game too much. It may affect the game in a lot of ways. We've had this before. If your chef is making a meal and he gets some crazy idea of using goat bladder on something, sometimes it's just better to let him stick with it, because firing him in the middle of prepping supper and bringing in a replacement when he or she has no clue what to do with the goat bladder, sometimes that's worse, you know, and sometimes that just makes the problem even worse.
But when you're talking about a massive multi-year project like this, to be having creative differences at this point, and the game was just recently delayed into 2021, but it's nearing the end of the development cycle. But to have creative differences with these high level people so late in the game is very concerning.
And
especially considering
I have heard rumors about this guy before, about he being hard to work with, but I mean I think I've said this before. That's a lot of artists. A lot of artists are hard to work with. It doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. It just means that there's, it just means that they're difficult to work with. And again, it's one of those scenarios where I really don't know. Like, artists are notoriously finicky, or can be. It's not necessarily, yeah.
We can
it's
be
not necessarily.
Yeah, creative types in general can be can be difficult to work with. We can also be difficult to live with. I'm definitely very fortunate. I have a very understanding wife. But yeah, I mean, difficult to work with is not exactly an uncommon thing to hear about some of the big writers in the industry, or anywhere really, in any creative industry. So it must have been a big problem, is what I think. Like, or the company, either the publisher or the developer, just really wanted to go in a bad direction that these two people were against, and that could be, I mean, that could be it too. It could be that they took a stand on something because they, Brian Mitsoda was heavily involved in the story of the first Vampire the Masquerade game, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. And so he was kind of a public face of the second game, and he was brought a lot of credibility to the development of the story. I mean, he worked on the first story, so it was kind of a continuation. It kind of showed that it wasn't just a thrown. When you have the same guy coming in to write the sequel story, that's a very positive PR thing. So it must have been. I just feel it must have been something really serious for them to axe him, because it's created all kinds of bad PR. So either he did something horrible, or the company is trying to do something horrible that he was standing against. That's my theory.
It could also just boil down to just people arguing back and forth about what the better idea is to do stuff. I know some people who get incredibly passionate about building games. There was not a famous situation. There was a certain developer who, during a meeting, picked up a jug of water and chucked it across, like not a bottle jug, but like one of those glass pitcher jugs, chucked it across the room because of a design decision. Like, how dare you make this choice?
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, I heard that story from at least 3 people. So I know it's true. And I've heard the guy speak at conventions and at other things and at panels. And I know he's a hot mouth. And I know that he's extremely passionate about his game, and that he believes that he's perfectly right on every decision that he makes. He is the absolute pinnacle of intellect, and you wouldn't have these great grand games without him. And in reality, he's kind of a small fry who doesn't really know what he's doing, and he kind of bumbles around and lucks into a lot of stuff. That's my personal dig at him, because he's an idiot. But overall, it's like he's not the first and or only person that thinks this way or that is that passionate about a game. I've known people who, they argue about the color of armor, of what color the armor for the starting character should be, and they have long, aggressive conversations about it, going, "No, it has to be this color. Don't you know anything? You blankety blank blank." And you're just like, and from an outsider's perspective, you're like, it's just it's just that. Like, what? WTF? Why is this?
Why is
are
it
people
such a
freaking
big
out?
issue that you're yelling at each
Yeah.
other over it? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like when it comes to creative stuff and when it comes to certain ideas and concepts that revolve around making games and making them work and making them good, it's like, yeah, sometimes those decisions have to be made and they have to be made correctly, and it's not easy. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
Anyway.
Moontag, you know a lot of artists. You've never encountered anybody who's this passionate about art projects, have you?
No.
Is that sarcasm?
Totally.
Of course, you never get that way, I'm sure. I'm sure you never get that way. We all have our moments. We do. Saib and I have had our fair share of creative disagreements. We've gotten much more amicable at resolving them. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So yeah, it's not looking good for that game. A lot of people concerned about it now, about the Bloodlines 2, because of this. So it is a very concerning situation. We'll have to see next year when it comes out how it does. I just can't imagine what they'd be having such at this stage. You would think most of the creative stuff would be established already, but
You'd think so. Like, once you get a team, you'd hope you'd be working towards the same vision, but sometimes you just run into people who just go my way or the highway.
It's just if you change anything fundamental at this point, that you just can't unless you want to delay your game another 3 years. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen the way it's going. All right, but finally, we have some more info about Halo Infinite and what's going on at the studio. Report out this week from Brad Sams at Thurrott.com. And there's some interesting info about what's been going on with the studio. So, of course, last week, Microsoft announced that Halo Infinite is delayed until 2021. Actually, that's a couple weeks ago now, I guess. But apparently, there was a lot of feedback when they showed the gameplay at the Xbox showcase a few weeks ago. There was a negative reaction to how the game looked. We won't rehash all of that again. We speculated that probably had something to do with the delay announcement, and it probably did. But apparently, there are problems in the development that have started long before that. So in 2015, 343 that's Microsoft's studio that's building Halo Infinite. They embarked on building the sequel to Halo 5, which they initially referred to as Halo 6. And they were going basically for a full rebuild. They have a new game engine called Slipspace, and they were also building it for the new generation console, which at that point had not been announced. So, I mean, this was a slippery thing to do right from the get-go. Rebuilding the game from the ground up, new engine, building it for a new console that did not yet exist. I mean, that's a challenging task. And the author of this article explains that this is often why launch titles are sometimes lacking in the graphics department, because, during development, they're not necessarily sure what the final specs are going to be. So they have a rough idea, but it's typically easier to scale up the graphics, later on than to cut down on the quality after you've already implemented stuff. So that's one reason. And I mean, that may have had something to do with why Halo's lighting, they were using very current / last gen lighting techniques, which is why the game looked so flat when we saw the gameplay. So, new game engine for an unannounced console for a launch title. And then, of course, you have the global situation thrown on top of that. It leads for a lot of development complications. But the difficulties in development started to surface well before E3 2019. A significant portion of the game is and was being outsourced to third-party contractors, which is not unusual, but coordination between a lot of companies, of course, increases the complexity and reduces the efficiency of what you're doing. And one person familiar with the company's plans, indicated that the outsourcing for Halo Infinite was at a higher ratio than a typical studio undertakes during development, and this has caused significant headaches for cross-development collaboration.
Mm-hmm. It's always sticky. It's always sticky when this happens, and I mean, it could be that Xbox has a really rough launch. I kind of don't. I think they have some more plans up their sleeve, and we're going to be potentially seeing a couple. I mean, we've got 2 great games coming out of Obsidian. We've got more stuff on the way from all their other acquisitions. We've got more and more Japanese developers signing on with Microsoft and choosing to launch their games either on both or exclusively to Microsoft. I think this overall is going to help a lot, and this battle is far from over. It's just heating up. So we'll see where this ends up going, because this is really interesting. Honestly, this is really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right, so apparently multiple people familiar with the development efforts of the game have also described the collaborative effort as challenging, and that there were significant disagreements internally. And these became public when Tim Longo, the creative director for the game, left the company in August of 2019, was replaced by Mary Olson. She left the company in October of 2019. And 343 at that point said there was no creative dilemma inside the studio, but I mean, there's
companies lie a lot.
There's a good reasons to doubt that statement. So
I've never heard of any project at all, ever. Never heard of any project where, oh yeah, no, we have no creative differences whatsoever. Everybody's on the same train, creating the same product. I'm like, yeah, that's a lie, because everybody has creative differences. Everybody does. It's just geez, no. It's wow. It's just wow.
Mm-hmm. One insider also states that the production of the Halo TV series for Showtime has been a significant distraction for 343's management. Now, I believe 343 has denied this, but again, can you trust them at their word?
I do not believe this. This is a major TV show. We know that TV shows and TV shows, movies, excuse me, all of these things have a significant amount of pressure behind them to be done right. And if you mess up and don't do it right, even with a gigantic game like World of Warcraft and an amazing movie with an amazing amount of production assets behind it, can end up coming out like garbage, like just hot garbage. Because the garbage that's left on the side of the street in 40 plus degrees for several weeks on end, that's 100 plus degrees for people who don't use the rest of the system that the rest of the world does. But yeah, just doing that for a week straight, nonstop. It's gross. It's disgusting, and it's not something you ever want to watch again, let alone remember with fondness. It's kind of ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
So you believe it is that they were focusing a lot on the TV show?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Of course they are. Of course they're putting in.
I mean, obviously they are, but they deny that it's been a distraction away from the game.
That's bull. That's bull. Of course it's been a major distraction. Of course it's been a major contention for the leads on the project, because they have to get this right. If they don't get this right, then they're pooched. literally. So
right.
yeah.
And then one of the other problems highlighted by this article is that apparently the engineering and marketing teams within the company have just been on completely different pages. Engineering has been asking for delays and to hold material back, but the marketing division has been plowing forward.
Yeah, again, not in any way, shape, or form surprised by any of this at all ever. Um, this is a constant problem that you have. Marketing is never, ever, ever happy with what they're given. You tell marketing, hey, you got to work within the confines of this. They will find some way to push that boundary all the time. They will find some way to get some info out. In fact, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. This is from several years ago. Marketing will. The last time I had this happen to me directly, marketing will go out on their own, and they will leak stuff that the company has chosen not to put out because they don't think it's ready yet, but the marketing department wants it to be out there because they have a way of thinking and a way of planning, and they, that's their thing. So yeah, that's just how that's just how the system operates. You can't hold stuff back just because you want to. It doesn't work that way. So at some point, if a marketing person wants it to get out, it's going to get out. It's like, and one of the best examples of this is probably Deadpool. Deadpool, the movie, was basically said, nah, it's not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And like a couple of weeks before like the project was going to be like totally canned, the rights were going to be up to go sell off, and it just wasn't going to move forward. And yeah, it was just Deadpool the movie was on life support. Oh, it turns out that something leaked to the internet that drove the internet crazy and made them go, we want this project now. And so finally people up in the higher rank went, oh, okay, well, I guess, all right, let's do it. That was a leak from there's a rumor that leak was from the star or from like the lead writer, but it could also have been from somebody else or done through somebody else in the marketing department who absolutely knew that this was the way that it had to work, that they had to do it this way, and that would work. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's very interesting stuff.
So that is some more details about Halo Infinite's troubled development and delay. Still hoping it's going to be a good game whenever it comes out. Still hoping that they make some improvements and that that it's a truly good successor to the Halo franchise. They're going for a more classic Halo type feel while at the same time advancing the technology behind the open world and things like that. So yeah, still looking forward to it. It's too bad it's been plagued by so much trouble. Hopefully it still is a very good game. If you want to read the entire report, it's from Brad Sams at thurrott.com, published on August 17th. And that's all the stories we had for today, but a few people have been asking about this new game trailer, Black Myth Wukong. I have not even had time to watch the trailer yet. Did either of you?
No. I've heard about this game coming for a while. Wukong is great. I love him to death. He's really fun to have at a party, but I've just played way too many games with him. I mean, it's not a small number of games. It's like there's like 14,000 different versions of them, and he's got to get a better marketing agent to like narrow that down a little bit. We were talking about the importance of like maintaining your image, your genre, and your profile out in proper places. Wukong's just, he's been everywhere. They had Wukong style toilet paper not too long ago. So it's just too much. It's just too much, and I suspect that this is going to be probably a really great project, but it's just too much for me right now. And I'll probably think about it a little bit differently in a few weeks, but Yeah, it does. I've heard a lot of people say it looks really, really solid. So I'm only stating why I haven't, taken an interest in it yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm probably gonna watch the trailer as soon as we're done going live here.
Actually, you know what? We might as well just do a live reaction to this. Yeah.
I can't
well, not
pull
right
up
now.
on the screen,
We'll do it in the Discord immediately following this. So.
Oh, okay. Sure, we could do that. Yeah, join us on the Discord. All right, Black Myth Wukong is just reading online about it here. It's a new martial arts action game developed by a Chinese studio that's taken the internet by storm in just a day. It's the retelling of the classic Chinese mythology epic Journey to the West. That sounds quite interesting.
I love that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only seen, like 13, 14 different variations of that same story in the last year alone. So I mean, again, it's
yeah,
not,
but you're the one who's always saying that there's only like 3 or 4 actual story templates that just keep getting rehashed. Anyway, some argue there's only one type of story template, but we won't get into that. This sounds interesting. So yes, let's do that. Let's do a live reaction to it in the Discord server right after this podcast is done. Click the link below to join us for that. So that should be a lot of fun. I think that's it for today. Any final thoughts? Moon or Cyb? No? All right.
Well, my doggy's made a terrible, terrible mess. It's been really distracting.
I hope the stream is still going. I just hit the wrong button and killed the stream. But I hope we're back now. That's the right button to bring up the closing music there. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for the great conversation in the live chat, and for supporting this show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. Really appreciate that. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Really helps us out. We've got some exciting announcements coming in the near future. Not gonna spoil it right now, but we got some cool stuff coming. Well, we hope you think it's cool anyway. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters and channel members who helped to make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon, Robin, Shua82, Time Bean, Schoolman, Lady Reaver, and our 2 anonymous supporters at that level on Patreon. Really appreciate that. Channel members on YouTube here, Mr. Pad Zernick, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, Terror K, Somnolence, and _ Let On. And also thank you to Ren Stan for the super chats today, and to everyone who listens after the fact on the audio-only platforms. Of course, don't forget you can join the live show on Wednesdays and Saturdays and be a part of the discussion, as a lot of people were today. See the Discord server for exact times and schedules. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news, updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyb and Moontag, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.